All right, let's dive into the classic case of Surroco versus Geary. Now, if you've already got the basics of the necessity doctrine down, think of this as your masterclass. We're going to see exactly how those rules play out in a real-life, high-stakes crisis. So here's the big question, right? Can you just destroy someone's private property to save an entire city from a massive fire? I mean, it's this epic clash, one person's rights versus the survival of the whole community. To break it all down, we're going to walk through it using the frack method. Okay, so first things first, let's get the facts straight. Specifically, the legally significant facts that got this whole thing started. So check this out. It's Christmas Eve, 1849, and San Francisco is just on fire. The mayor, a guy named John Geary, has to make a snap decision. He orders Pascal Surroco's house to be destroyed to create a firebreak. But here's the kicker. It doesn't even work. The fire just rolls right over the spot where the house was, just minutes later. Surroco, understandably, is not happy. He sues, and you know what? He actually wins in the lower court. And we're not talking about a small amount of money here. The court ordered Geary to personally cough up $7,500. I mean, back in 1850, that was an insane amount of cash. So you can bet there was a whole lot riding on Geary's appeal to the California Supreme Court. All right, so that brings us to the I in Fair Act, the issue. What was the exact legal question the Supreme Court needed to figure out here? And this is really the core of it all. The court wasn't asking, was the house destroyed? Obviously it was. They weren't even asking if it was the perfect decision with the benefit of hindsight. Nope. The question was way more specific. Is a public official personally on the hook for damages when they destroy private property in good faith to stop a public disaster? So how do you even begin to answer a question like that? Well, the court reached into its legal toolkit and pulled out a really old, really powerful principle, the rule of necessity. This brings us to the R, the rule. What's super interesting here is that the court made it clear this wasn't some brand new legal concept they were inventing. They pointed out that whether you looked at the old Mexican law that was in place or the Anglo-American common law tradition, the answer was the same. The rule was already there. If you're acting in good faith to stop a huge fire, you are not personally liable. This was settled law. Okay, now for the A in FRAC, the analysis. This is where the rubber meets the road. How did the court actually apply that rule to what happened in San Francisco? So the first thing the court does is draw a really bright line. They said, look, this is not eminent domain. That's when the government takes your property for public use, like building a road, and they have to pay you for it. This was something totally different. This was an act of necessity, destroying property to stop a catastrophe from getting even worse. It's a desperate act for survival, more like a single person grabbing a life-saving plank in a shipwreck. And that really gets to the heart of Geary's motivation, which the court hammers home with this quote. I mean, Geary wasn't doing this for himself. He wasn't trying to be malicious. His action was all about the collective good, sacrificing one piece of property to hopefully save everyone else. So you can really break down the court's reasoning into 3 simple steps. Step 1, they label the act as one of necessity. Step 2, they set the standard for how to judge that act, and this is crucial. They say you can't use 20/20 hindsight. You have to put yourself in the shoes of a reasonable person at that exact moment. And step 3, they connect the dots. Since it was an act of necessity done for the public good, the official who made the call isn't personally on the hook. And this quote right here is probably the most important part of the whole analysis. Think about it. The house was going to burn down anyway. But the court says that doesn't matter. We can't judge the decision based on what happened after. What matters is the good faith call made in the heat of the moment. The necessity defense is there to protect reasonable decisions, not just ones that turn out to be perfectly right. Okay, so let's wrap this up with the C in FIRAC, the conclusion, or holding, and the big takeaway you need to remember from this case. And the holding? It was crystal clear. The California Supreme Court reversed the lower court's decision. Boom. That $7,500 judgment against Geary? Gone. He didn't have to pay a single penny. And this is why Surroco v. Geary is such a landmark case. It's really the one that cemented the defense of public necessity in American law. Basically, it's a privilege that says you can destroy property if you reasonably believe it's necessary to stop an imminent public disaster. And that privilege? It's a complete shield from liability. So if there's one thing you walk away with, it's this. Public necessity is an absolute defense. It completely blocks the property owner from recovering damages from the person who made the call. Now, the court does kind of hint that, hey, maybe the people whose property was saved should all chip in to help Surroco out, but they are absolutely firm on one thing. Mayor Geary, the guy who gave the order, is immune. But that leaves us with this huge, lingering question, doesn't it? The rule protects the person making the tough call, which makes sense, but it leaves the property owner, Surroco, with nothing. He bears the entire cost for the city. So is that really fair? Should one person have to sacrifice their property for the good of everyone else without getting any compensation? That's a fundamental question of fairness that legislatures and courts still grapple with today.